So here comes the most interesting and the most basic topic of marketing. How actually money flows in the modern economy. So in this topic, I'll ask three questions to you. First question, who makes the iPhone? So a lot of you might be thinking that obviously Apple makes iPhone. Okay, you guessed it right. The next question is, who manufacture your iPhone? And a few of you might be thinking, okay, Apple makes the iPhone, so Apple is the one who is manufacturing our iPhones. But that's not true. Sorry to burst your bubble, but there are a lot of companies who manufacture your iPhone. For example, the camera module which is used in your iPhone is made by Sony in Japan. The OLED display which is there in your iPhone is made by Samsung. The Bionic chip A12 or A13, depending on the type of model you have, is made by TSMC and ARM. And the batteries which are used in your iPhone is made by Samsung. And the flash memory, which is RAM, is made by Toshiba and Samsung. So none of the component in your iPhone is made by Apple itself. Now I'll ask a third question to you. I know I'm asking so many questions, but third question is, who assembles your iPhone? Okay, so you think Apple might not be manufacturing it, but it might be assembling it. Apple is not assembling your iPhone. Foxconn and Wistron are assembling Apple devices. Foxconn is assembling almost 70-80% iPhone, and Wistron is assembling almost 70-80% Mac, and maybe even more than that. Now that's all about your iPhone. Let's talk about how the money actually flows with your iPhone in the economy. And to understand this, I have divided the complete market into 5 different segments. We'll start with the resource market, then we'll move towards this manufacturing market, then intermediary market, then consumer market, and all these things go hand in hand with the government market. We'll start with the resource market. For every electronic device, there are some raw material or there are some semi-finished goods which are required. Raw material like semiconductors, some plastic modules, some glass panel, all these are raw material. So resource market supply resources in the form of raw material to the manufacturing market. In turns, manufacturing market giving some money to the resource market. Now, if you take Apple as a point of reference in the manufacturing market, then there are multiple companies which manufactures the component of iPhone. For example, TSMC is there, ARM is there, Samsung, LG, all these companies are there as a manufacturing market. Then comes the intermediary market. So basically, from the resource market, manufacturing market have taken some raw material and made a semi-finished good. Semi-finished good like OLED panels, batteries, camera modules, some printed circuit board, all these goods and services are given to intermediary market, and then intermediary market where your Foxconn lies, which basically assembles the iPhone and give it to the consumer market. And that's how there is an exchange of money and goods and service. So intermediary market give goods and service to consumer market, and consumer gives money to the intermediary market. And that's how the whole cycle of economy really works. So any person who is purchasing an iPhone in the consumer market, giving some money to intermediary market, which in turns giving the money to the manufacturing market, which in turns giving money to the resource market. And resource market is basically employing the people, which is again going back to the consumer market. And government is playing a very important role in between, because government is getting taxes from all the 4 sides, and they are providing some good amount of infrastructure, good amount of electricity, road, water, some compliances, rules, regulations, all these kind of stuff. All the 4 different kind of parties, which is resource market, manufacturing market, intermediary market, and consumer market. So that's how your money actually flows in the modern economy. Now, to simplify the parties involved in making and selling of an iPhone, I have divided these 3 parties in 3 different categories. First is OEM, which is original equipment manufacturer. So all these OEMs make basically the equipments for different devices. These are basically semi-finished equipments. For example, Samsung used to make 70-80% of all OLED display used in your smartphone, no matter your phone belongs to Samsung, Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo, LG, Google Pixel. No matter which smartphone you have, almost 70-80% of OLED display of those smartphones are made by Samsung. Then there is TSMC, which basically manufacture all the semiconductor, all the different sort of memory chips. Then there is ARM, which design all the processor. Then there comes Sony, which basically used to design camera modules and camera sensors, all that kind of stuff. Then there is one more party which can be called as a supplier or assembling partner, that is Foxconn, which basically takes all these semi-finished product or component from OEMs and try to assemble that into a full product. And that product is now taken care by Apple for branding and distribution. And Apple focus a lot on branding and distribution of that iPhone, and some amount of effort in research and development as well. Now, just to explain the whole situation, I'll try to take some hypothetical figures. Believe me, these figures are hypothetical and these are not actually real. But just to give you a perspective and give you a good understanding, I'm taking these figures. For example, Apple sell an iPhone in $1,000. Foxconn assemble and transfer the iPhone to Apple in $700. And all these OEMs cost you around $600, which means Foxconn is earning $100 per iPhone and Apple is earning close to $300 per iPhone. Now, after looking at this, you'll realize that, okay, Foxconn is only earning $100 and Apple is earning $300, which means Apple is more successful and Foxconn is not a good company. Well, that's not true. So basically, Foxconn not only assembles iPhone for Apple, it also assembles a lot of smartphone for Xiaomi, Oppo, Vivo, OnePlus. So Foxconn have a lot of partners. And in this whole game of different partners, Foxconn use two very basic strategy called economy of scale and economy of scope. And we will discuss about economy of scale and economy of scope later in this video. But just to give you a perspective, Foxconn is a good company. It really earns a lot of money, but its per unit earnings are low. While Apple works a lot more on branding, distribution and research and development,